Hello, everybody. My name is Curtis Childs. Welcome to this talk called The Soul of Marriage. Thank you so much for coming. I am worried that you might have made a mistake coming to this talk. When I got asked to do this by Lori, will you speak at the marriage conference? So she just sent me an email, and it showed up in my inbox, and I thought, I don't know if I should. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm an expert in marriage. For some evidence of that, my wife is not here at this talk right now. She saw that I was going to give a talk about marriage and thought, I don't really need to hear that guy talk about it. What does he know? No. So she's graciously agreed to take our daughter to a class that we didn't want her to miss. So she's doing that, and I realized that she's given me such a great gift by doing that, because now she is not here to defend herself. So if I'm going and saying, like, the Lord wants you to be good in your marriage and do these things, but you know what my wife did in 2014? So that's a cool teaching tool. When Lori sent me that email, I thought, yeah, what do I have to teach about marriage? What I do like to do is go through Swedenborg's writings and talk about them and like bring them to life. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll try to name this talk and describe it something where you know that's all we're doing. This is not going to be fun or interesting. Look, does that look like a slideshow to you? This is a Google Doc that we're going to scroll through. What the warning I'm trying to give you is we are going to read the writings of Emanuel Swedenborg at length. And that's like all we're doing. So if you feel like I need to go to the bathroom and go to one of the different workshops that's going to give you more practical info on how to rear children and all that, that's fine. I don't hold it against you. I really did have the thought, yeah, I wonder if less than 5 people sign up, will they just cancel it? Maybe that's better as we're going. So thank you all for doing this. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go through things that I feel like, one of the reasons why I signed up was I was so excited to try to find the right passages. And I don't know if I found them or not. We can all be the judge of that. So I feel like it's kind of important for us to know why the whole thing is. Like, why is there marriage in the first place? Because I think, like with anything in life, if you get that wrong, then everything else goes wrong. So, as I understand it, there's a point, and the point is for us to be happy. So, and I'm about to back it up with scriptures, but keep that in your mind, that what is the point of marriage is a vehicle by which God can deliver happiness to human beings. And it's like if your internet is too slow because you have to get it through the phone line. You remember when you used to do that? So instead, they're like, well, you need more internet. I'm going to install a T1 line so you can get a ton of internet. That's what marriage is God installing in the human being, here's your broadband, high-speed line so that I can put more happiness in you. So everything else that follows from it, fine, but that's why it's here. That's the point of it. Okay? So if you don't believe me, check this out. This is from, okay, anyone want to leave? That's the first quote we're going through. You think that's the end of the talk at the end of that quote? This is from Conjugal Love 180. People harass me online because we make videos about this stuff, and they say, it's conjugal, it's not conjugal. You're pronouncing it wrong. They don't understand that there's this special Latinate word that Swedenborg uses to describe marriage love. You'll hear me talk about it as marriage love, married love, conjugal love. Y'all know what it means. So here we go. What's it like to be in this? The states of, can you see my little cursor there? The states of marriage love are innocence, peace, tranquility, intimate friendship, full trust, and a desire shared by the disposition and heart of each to do to the other all the good that they can. So there's that. That's what the nature of married love is. We'll get to, like, hey, that's not what every day is like for me in a minute. But in general, let's remember that's the point. That's what is that is the divine intent behind having this thing in the first place. So I would love to know if anybody's ever had any of that stuff. I was going to start by saying, let's all, this is a joke I was going to do at the beginning. I'll do it right now. You'll know which was going to be, hi, everyone. To get to know each other, I thought we would go around and just have everybody briefly say the greatest challenge facing your marriage today. So I skipped that joke, unfortunately. So does anybody ever had a time when they felt like there was innocence in their marriage? No, I'm like, can someone say it? What's an innocent time in your marriage? I would say, just when I was going over this with my wife, and she was like, oh yeah, like innocence, because like one of the things marriage is for is to have somebody that you just laugh with a lot. I think about we'll send each other stupid internet things and just laugh about that. And I do find that when there's something, oh man, there was one recently. It's just a picture of this valley with like beautiful clouds going across it, and it said on the top of it, stop worrying whether people like you. They don't. And I was like, I gotta send that to Brooke right away. Because I need someone to laugh with about that. So does anyone have any example of any time within their marriage ever that you felt like, oh, there's some innocence in this thing? Having a baby? Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jennifer? That's beautiful. So I know people watching the video cannot hear those things. Sorry, you're not going to be able to hear them. And I know the rest of you, I'll repeat it, but the two people talked about having baby and the first day that you had a baby and the way it changes you. And I remember when we had our daughter, we were at the hospital, and this little tiny baby was lying on this little cot that I had and just sitting there and just feeling like, yeah, this is so great. So there's some innocence. What about peace or tranquility? You guys have any examples? I feel like I'm starting to feel that more and more. So I'm a grown-up, so I have to go and do my job, and I have to try to make things happen and all that. I'm starting to love little fuddly details more and more in my life. So like I'll have to go and do something for work, but then when I come back and we're going to light a fire, or we're going to eat this food. I feel like this sense of peace at that I didn't used to when I was younger and when I hadn't been married for the amount of time that I have. So I feel like there's some tranquility in that. Does anyone have? Yeah. So it's, it can be in different states with one and the other. So the wedding, the moment on the altar, it's like there's all this hubbub surrounding it, and then, we're up here. How about, intimate friendship? Does anybody have any experience of friendship? Isn't that cool that that's the core of it? Because I've seen movies, and I feel like the core of marriage is being the two coolest people in the world, right? Like you got James Bond, and then whoever James Bond is interested in, and they're both like so good looking, and they're both so powerful, and they both like. When my wife, it doesn't really happen anymore because now that we have a daughter, we can't stay up past 8:45 anyway. But it used to be that we would go and try to rent movies and watch them at night, through whatever you did it back then. And it would take so long to find a movie because none of them are good. And then we would start, like, this one might be good, and it's 9:30. Let's start it. And right away you could tell this is terrible because by the dialogue. And if the dialogue is too much, we would call it touche. where like it's a quip and then a quip, and like people are trying to quip at each other, and the guy's like, wow, she quipped like that. A quip being like, well, I see you have this. I didn't know. That's what marriage is. It's cleverness. Actually, it's intimate friendship. That's not the only thing that happens in it, but that's the thing that powers it. That's kind of cool. Okay. Don't sleep on that last part of the sentence there. A desire shared by the disposition and heart of each to do the other all the good they can. So you're a regular human being after you got married. It's not like all of your feelings and affections change. So I can have all the regular feelings of things that I like, even things about like, oh, this is so cool. There's a girl who likes me now, and I want this thing and that. Those are fine. That's not necessarily the core of what married love is. You know what it is like there's all kinds of things that you can like and that can feel pleasing to you, but there's one which is, I want to do good to this person, which isn't there perpetually, but it does sometimes pop up where I get a sense of, and I find that for myself, sometimes it's when life is going pretty well, like my job is going well, or I have some kind of overflow, and I feel like I got to give her a really happy life, which is not my default setting, but it pops up, and I think what the writings do is lets me know, oh, like that little seed, if you water that can really grow into a tree. Okay, so we should be able to make it through all this in the next 12 hours at this pace. All these things give rise to blessedness, bliss, joy, and pleasure, and by their everlasting enjoyment, heavenly happiness. Okay, so here's where it comes from and why. The reason why conjugal love enjoys and is the source of both of these sets of states is that it is the product of the marriage of good and truth. I know nobody knows what that means. I don't know what that means. But there's some very interesting material right after this. A marriage that comes from the Lord. Okay, so there's something going on, the Lord. Here we go. It is the nature of love to wish to communicate with the object of heartfelt love. And in fact, to give pleasure to the other and seek one's own pleasure from him. So even infinitely more does the divine love in the Lord for man, and man is like, that's one small step for man. I'm talking about people, whom he created to receive the love and wisdom which proceed from him. So if you were to wipe out the Swedenborg language and just say that like a person would say it, and I only say this like, I love Swedenborg's writing so much. I've been willing to humiliate myself by talking about them ad nauseum on the internet. I love them. I also know that most people look at that and say, what are you even talking about? How I would put that is, when you love someone, you want to reach out and make them happy and be happy because they're happy. Where do we get that from? Everybody knows that's what love is. Where do we get that from? That's how God feels about us. So if you want to do that for someone, you got to find a way to give them that happiness you want. You know how in all these marriage courses and classes and everything, it talks about you got to find out your partner's love language. You got to know what it is you can do. That this is God having that desire for us and then putting in the mechanism by which he can give us that happiness. Since he created, wisdom proceed from him. Since he created man to receive, the male to receive wisdom, the female to receive the love of her husband's wisdom, he therefore instilled into the innermost region of human beings conjugal love. Why is it there? As being the means of conferring all the blessedness, happiness, joy, and pleasure which proceed solely from his divine love by means of his divine wisdom, together with life, and enter into human beings. The Lord wants to make you happy, so he thinks, I know how I can do it, and put this thing in you that is going to let me give you all the happiness that I can give you. That's why it's here. That's why God invented getting married and the conjugal relationship in the first place. I don't know, you might be thinking, no duh, but to me, that's important to keep that as your North Star. That's why it's here. It's the same thing with life, by the way. One of the coolest teachings in the writings is that the Lord's divine providence has for its end a heaven from the human race. Why do we exist? Why does the universe exist? For people to be happy, because heaven and happiness are interchangeable. That is what heaven is the state of everlasting happiness. That's you can take that for granted, but that's not what everybody believes who is religious or spiritual. That there's a lot of belief out there that essentially God created the human race to obey and serve him. That's out there. Or that God created the human race but is deistically only semi-interested, and you kind of prove yourself through acing life, and then you rise up to be one of the greatest people. That's different. The point of it is to make us happy, and within that, the point of marriage is to make us happy. So that's what's going on. I think it's important to remember. Any comments or questions? Yes. Okay, good. That's about, you can just leave it in the comments of the video. Consequently, it affects those who enjoy truly conjugal love, because they are the only ones to receive this. Innocence, peace, tranquility, intimate friendship, full trust, and a desire shared by the disposition and heart to do the other all the good they can are mentioned, because innocence and peace belong to the soul, tranquility to the mind, intimate friendship to the chest, full trust to the heart, and the desire shared by the disposition and heart to do the other all the good they can belongs to the body as a result of the others. So we have that big, long list of qualities because it's like there's something that's deepest in you, and there's the layer below and the layer below, and all those things work in harmony for happiness. So that's what it is, and you might say to yourself, oh, well, I did something wrong, because that's not what it's like for me every day to be married. Let me just tell you about something my wife did. This whole time, anytime you have any kind of talk about marriage, like there's always a bit of a joke about, oh yeah, we fight a lot, right? That's we fight about stupid things, which is true, but it doesn't seem like that is the same as what is being described there. So do I not really have it, or is it missed in translation? I think it's important to know when Swedenborg is talking about truly conjugal love in the writings, he's generally talking about something that none of us have or even know what it is. You don't have to take my word for it. This next section, which I wrote, is called "We Don't Really Know It." This first line is actually my own words. It's not in quotes. It's not from Swedenborg, but this is a summary of what he's saying here, which is that marriage as we think of it is not conjugal love, but creates the conditions for conjugal love. I feel like that's important, not to say, well, you don't know if you have it or not, but so you don't have these. There's a problem if you put something on a pedestal, which is like as soon as you say I do, you got inmost trust, you got friendship, you got all those things. That's Swedenborg was, as you'll see here, in Secrets of Heaven, he says, what genuine conjugal love is and where it originates, few know at the present day. The reason being that it exists with few. Everybody was married around him. I mean, today in America and elsewhere, there's barely anybody married compared to how many people were married, what percentage of the people were married in Swedenborg's day. So even though he's surrounded by married people, he's saying, like, you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Because there's something, it's, again, saying I do, having the ring creates the conditions under which it can happen, but it doesn't automatically create the thing. And I thought this was fascinating that when this is going to be from Married Love 57, he tells you that. He says, I'm going to give you the description of the pinnacle or the goal so that we can understand where we are here. It's kind of like if you're an athlete and you're like, well, I'm going to watch a LeBron James workout for inspiration, but I'm not that. I'm not trying to say, suit me up on a play for the Lakers. Conjugal love is unlimited in its variety. It is not the same in one person as it is in another. It appears indeed, okay, I told you, you shouldn't be here. That if you thought anything was hard about that last quote, just wait for these next few paragraphs. I was going to take them out, but then I thought, nope, people signed up for this. They deserve what they get here. Again, I say that just being madly in love with these books. I'm sorry about these next few paragraphs. It appears indeed as if it were the same in many cases, but that is how it appears to a judgment of the body. And a person scarcely sees the diversity in such things on the basis of a judgment like that, because it is dense and obtuse. By a judgment of the body, we mean a judgment of the mind on the basis of its external senses. Or you could say, you can't really tell how different married love is for people just by looking at them. That's what he means. You can't really tell that this thing, there's as many different forms of it as there are different people and different couples. People who see as a result of judgment of the Spirit, however, to them the differences appear. And they appear even more clearly to those who can raise the sight of this judgment still higher by withdrawing this sight from the senses and elevating it into a higher light. These people are finally able to convince themselves with the understanding and thus see that conjugal love is not the same in one person as it is in another. Translation, if you really think about it, you can see that this is true, what I'm saying. And you got to be spiritual to get it. But even so, no one can see the endless varieties of this love in any light of the understanding, even if elevated. And this is why I have us going through this quote. Even if elevated, unless he first knows what that love is like in its true essence and perfect state. Thus, what it was like when, together with life, it was bestowed on mankind by God. So he's saying here that in the chapter that follows, which is called Truly Conjugal Love, I'm telling you how it is in perfection and how it was when it started, because otherwise we can't understand its current state. Again, you see this if you read a book about how to be a good manager in a business, it's telling you something that here's what's perfect, and then, you are where you are and you're trying to get that. This is the way everything else is. It's a good strategy. This is how something would work perfectly, and then we can work where we are. I feel like that's important to know. Because I think there's a tendency for new church people to read something about conjugal love and you think like, how do you do that? I didn't do that. This is showing you the essence of it. Unless this state of it is known, which was most perfect, its diversities can by no means be discovered by any method of inquiry. For there is in that case no fixed point from where, are you awake? For there is, in that case, no fixed point from which, as a point of origin, the diversities may be traced, and to which, as a point of reference, they may be related so as to appear accurately and not deceptively. And we have a starting point for this conversation. For this reason, we proceed in this chapter to describe what that love in its true essence. And since that love existed in its true essence when, together with life, it was infused into mankind by God, like way back in the beginning, we proceed to describe it as it was in its original state. Moreover, because in that state conjugal love was truly conjugal, we title this chapter Truly Conjugal Love. Okay, so you're doing great. We're going to talk about how it is in perfection. You're also doing great right now. That's the message there. When I set out to do this talk, I thought, I want to find the very best numbers about married love, because I feel like sometimes I'll be going through and I'll read one and I'll think, that's really great. I got to share it with people. And I don't know if I found them or not, but these are the ones that I found. I always feel like going through the writings, there's probably so many amazing big fish that got away, but these are the ones that didn't get away. And I think the last bit of this, I'm just trying to gauge our time. So this is 10:43. We go to 11:40. We got so much time. I'll see. There is such a thing as boot off the stage, so we'll see if it goes all the way. Let's talk about innocence. Before I was saying innocence is the heart of married love, which again, that idea does not necessarily just spring up from any soil that you go to. Like, that's a pretty distinct idea. But what are we talking about innocence? Because people are going to have different ideas. So what does that even look like? This is from Heaven and Hell. Genuine marriage love is found in the inmost heaven, because the angels there are absorbed in the marriage of the good and the true, and are in innocence as well. Angels of lower heavens are in marriage love too, but only to the extent that they are in innocence. Because seen in its own right, marriage love is a state of innocence. So I don't still know exactly what we're talking about with innocence, but I do know that they're synonyms. He's saying that innocence and marriage love are the same. If I say to you innocence, I'm also saying to you marriage love and vice versa. Okay, I mean that, I didn't know that. So, and then he does give you some helpful examples of like, this is how that would maybe show up in like a husband and wife pair. So between partners who are in marriage love, there are heavenly pleasures, almost like games of innocence to their minds, like those of babies, because there is nothing that does not delight them. Sorry, I'm just thinking about how dumb the jokes are that me and my wife do. And I was like, yep, babies, just like babies. And I do know, and again, since she's not here, can't defend herself, she loves that kind of stuff, like to get us to be like silly. And maybe it's because there's just this pull toward like, it's not the only thing you do. It's not the only thing you do in marriage. Yeah, you're actually in charge of some fairly important things, like human beings, like kids, and you got to do it. It's interesting to know, though, that there's a heart of it, which is innocence. It's just like when Jesus came and said, let the little children come to me. The kingdom of heaven is like this. Or in the book of Revelation, where it's like, here comes God. Oh, he looks like a lamb. That's not how you'd think it would be. That's not how it was in the Roman Empire, when Jesus was first doing this stuff. What is it like to be like God? Is you get as powerful as you can. That's what the pinnacle of humanity is. That's a novel concept that actually to be like a little child is really good. That's cool, and it's not what you would expect. Heaven flows into the smallest details of their lives with its joy. This is why marriage love is pictured in heaven by the loveliest things of all. I have seen it represented by an indescribably lovely young woman enveloped by a white cloud. I was told that all the beauties of angels in heaven come from all the beauty of angels in heaven comes from marriage love. The affections and thoughts that flow from it are represented by gleaming auras like those of fiery gems or rubies, all this accompanied by feelings of delight that move the deeper levels of the mind. Did I lose you there? If you're not familiar with the way that Swedenborg's writings work, we're suddenly talking about the afterlife and how things show up in the afterlife, like in heaven. And the reason why he's doing that is in heaven, you can see intangible things pictured tangibly. So here I'm thinking, there's probably somebody doing this at some workshop here. You can't see. If you have two people who are just in a really great relationship with each other and they love each other and they do something really nice for each other, you can't see it. Like the sky doesn't light up. But it does in the afterlife, because the afterlife, everything that's about feelings and thoughts, good or bad, you can see it there. So you can see an actual picture of the nature of the feelings and the connection. So that's cool. And so what does it look like? Beauty itself, gleaming, glowing, everything you might paint to describe love. I'm thinking of, like Lady and the Tramp is a cartoon that's, I think, 1,000 years old by now, by Disney. And it's one of a million. Oh, now I'm thinking of The Little Mermaid when they're on the boat and they're surrounded by the fireflies. It's actually, it's a weird one to bring up. Do you guys want me to digress pretty heavily here about the nature of these Disney cartoons? Okay, it's a weird one to bring up because in that movie at that time, it's actually, oh no, it is good. It's kind of weird. They're trying to break this spell. She doesn't have a voice, and there's like Sebastian and all these are setting up this scene to try to get her to do it. The point is, they're trying to get the environment to feel romantic. So there's these fireflies that are going around. They're underneath this like lace curtain of this weeping willow over the water, and everything's beautiful around. Because that would kind of match what's supposed to be going on inside them, right? There's a beautiful outside to match the feelings of love that are awakening. Spoiler alert, these eels tip them over, and the electric eel is sent from the sea witch. You guys, okay. I'm saying it's beautiful, and it doesn't always seem beautiful. That's the nature of life, is that the things that are actually beautiful don't seem beautiful. When I was talking before about the James Bond style, what's the greatest married couple? It's the one who's the coolest, or what's the greatest couple is the one who's the coolest. The stuff that's like really good doesn't always look that cool, which is why we can like blink and miss it. But it is, and you will see it in heaven. That's one of the messages. You will see that in heaven. Any rebuttals to what I've said up here so far? Yes.
I feel a little greedy here. I'm going to say two things. One is that I think it's a great line in Princess Bride where she realizes that when he says, "As you wish," he's saying, "I love you." I feel like that speaks to this innocence point.
Yeah. Yep. So he said, "As you wish" in Princess Bride is the same as "I love you." Innocence. I got like goosebumps when you said it. Go ahead.
The other one is you were talking about your wife and the dumb jokes, and I'm thinking about Genesis when Abimelech, king of Gerar, clues in that Isaac and Rebekah are husband and wife, not brother and sister, because he sees them laughing together.
Oh.
Laughing together in just that way. Is that wait a minute? That's not a.
So that's chemistry. Chemistry is you laugh at stupid stuff together. They're like, wait a second, there's something going on there. That's great. Okay, so that's innocence. What's next? Oh, okay. Well, this is actually one that we focused on in a recent Off the Left Eye show. There's not too much insight into the nature of marriage, but there's something about the importance of it. I don't know if you've ever heard this. This is from True Christianity. It's the universal characteristics of heaven. I got to do this. You guys are going to read ahead and ruin it. Because it's pretty short, and I know you're doing that. It's very disrespectful. So to set the scene, Emanuel Swedenborg, scientist in the 1800s, wears a curly white wig like everyone else does. It's just, it's a lot to take in, but he travels out of his body into the afterlife, which now actually is a pretty normal thing everyone talks about. Go on YouTube, it's all about near-death experiences now. That's changed. But he goes and meets angels, and it's actually some senior faculty at like a university in heaven, and he says, what are the universal characteristics of heaven? Which just means, what makes heaven heaven? What are the things? And they give 3 things. They actually say, here's the 3 things that make heaven heaven, and then there's the opposite, which is 3 things that make hell hell. I'm not going to spoil whether married love makes the cut, but we'll see. They did so and said, and we start, let me give you the bad news first. There are 3 universal characteristics of hell. They are the complete opposite of the universal characteristics of heaven. The universal characteristics of hell are the following 3 loves. A love for power that comes from loving ourselves. A love for possessing other people's wealth that comes from loving the world. And promiscuous love. Those are the 3 things that make hell hell. The universal characteristics of heaven are the following 3 loves, which are the opposite of the loves just mentioned. 1, a love for power that comes from loving to be useful. You thought I was going to say no love for power at all. All right, that's what I thought I was going to say. But actually, isn't that funny that heaven is it's not that you're like, okay, I'm heavenly now. I don't want to do anything that changes anything. I just want to sit over here and be small. You're still working to be useful, and you're trying to do things, but you want to do it to make life better for people. You have a passion for that, which replaces the passion for aggrandizing yourself above everyone. Okay? Nobody has read ahead, so a love for love for possessing, do you guys want to just read it for me? Possessing worldly wealth that comes from loving to do useful things with it, and true marriage love. True marriage love. Those are the three. It makes the top 3 list of important things. And as I was this morning watching the plenary session, where if anybody missed it, or if anybody online didn't watch it, what happened was there was husband here, wife over here, and they were going back and forth and talking about stuff about being married. There's my review. It was great, and that theirs was the kind of one you would want to sign up to come to. It had slides, and they did singing, and there's like a lot of practical, good advice in there. Which I do think the last 2 quotes here will almost come close to being something you could apply to your life, but not all the way. But what they were doing, I had this surge of affection for it, because what they were doing was sitting there and talking about, essentially, I'm trying to keep my ego in check so that I'm not a bad person to my partner. And that I know I have the tendency to, I want to be right and control and domineer, and I got to keep that in check because we're trying to do this thing together. And they were both sitting there kind of, keeping fences around their own egos and telling us to do the same. Well, that's a great thing to do. Like, what other pursuit gets you to go against, if you follow the money, the ego never wants to give up control. It always wants to exert its will on things, but I just saying that the fact that heaven opposes the love of power for the love of self, marriage is the same thing. It's just like, how do you live with somebody without being selfish? That's really great. Of course, that's an offspring or an integral part of what heaven is. That it's just it in a smaller form. It's like, I know that there's something greater than me, which is like being a good person and us having a good relationship for all kinds of reasons, for kids, for community. God says we should do it. That's better than me trying to. I will actually fight against my own impulses at times and even examine my own thinking. Am I right in that for the sake of a greater good? Of course, that's a part of heaven. So that's a good thing to do. I like that. I like that we're doing that. So that's what I felt when I was watching that talk here. And I think that is part of why it's one of the universal characteristics of heaven, because it's the attitude of heaven in miniature. If you're trying to live a heavenly life, that means you're trying to do that basically for everyone, in that you're trying to regenerate and not have your love of dominion, love of the world make you unbearable for the people around you, but you're doing it just even more there. Oh, the one that got away, the quote that as I was preparing for this, I was striving to find this quote, and I did many searches on New Christian Bible Study where I had I knew the phrasing from this quote. I knew that it was, it is wanting but not able. What is it? And I searched and searched and searched and never found this quote. So I don't know if it exists, but I'm going to still say it to you as if it really does exist. Swedenborg will talk about the difference between charity, or it's in the NCE, it's kindness often. I know Cara Dom, who's in a competing workshop with mine right now, taught me that it's caritas is the Latin word. Sometimes he'll compare that to conjugal love, and he'll say, charity is wishing better for others than for yourself. I did find this one. 452 and what? Good. But that's impressive, but I'm setting this one up as maybe you'll know this next one that I'm looking for as well. So the charity is wishing better for everyone, than yourself, and that's what it is. That's different than married love, because married love is not, I wish better for you than myself. It is, I want to live with you. I want to completely join my life together with yours. That's different. I can have charity for the post office guy who drops off the mail, but if I'm like, hey, what are you doing later today? You want to hang out? Let's just spend our whole life. That's different. You can't do that for the whole world. So he compares and contrasts those in a couple passages that I found readily in my searches. But the one that got away, that I never found, was where he defines that married love is actually the full expression of what any love wants to do. That hidden, like the driving force between any affection you have for anything is to try to give everything that is yours to them. That's what God is trying to do for us. Is I'm creating you so that I can make you happy, and the closer you want to get to me, the closer I'll do to you. But in our general life, in our friendships and in work and everything, you can only go so far. You're like, okay, well, I'll be as nice to you as I can, but the reason why it's cool to be married is that that's somebody who you can go all the way. You can say, I'm going to spend my whole life trying to make you happy. So in that way, the reason married love is so great is that's the place where we get to, the whole thing really gets to do what it wants to do. So I never found that number. Maybe it doesn't exist, but it used to exist. Back before somebody changed something. Any thoughts or feelings about what we're going through right now? Okay, great. Well, we're going to have like some kind of Q&A at the end. Okay, let's talk about a major threat. You can only know something by its opposites. So you can kind of know what is marriage by what destroys it. There's probably two major things that Swedenborg says is most toxic to it. This is one, I don't know if you think of this one first. So here we go. The thing that destroys marriage is control. Control, a love of controlling your partner destroys marriage. Any love of control of one over the other utterly destroys marriage love and its heavenly pleasure. For as already noted, marriage love and its pleasure consist of the intent of one belonging to the other, and this being mutual and reciprocal. So like I said before, for Swedenborg, he was looking around and everybody was married, but it doesn't not the same as having marriage love. Marriage is just like the love that God has for people, and the relationship God sets up with us is it's freedom. You have to do it in freedom and willing. But if you are saying, I don't care what you want or what makes you happy or who you are, I want things my way, and I want you to be who I want you to be, and I want you to do what I want you to do, and I don't listen to you and all that, might as well, I mean, for the sake of securing conjugal love, might as well not be married. That is not, I don't know, that's interesting. That destroys it. So part of it is you gotta like care about the other person. You gotta care about them. That's cool. Nobody can argue against that. That is one of the major threats to it. Here's a little more on why. A love of being in control in a marriage destroys this because the dominant partner simply wants his or her will to be in the other and does not want to accept any element of the will of the other in return. So it is not mutual, which means that there is no sharing of any love and its pleasures with the other and no accepting in return. Yet this sharing and the union that follows from it is the very inward pleasure that is called blessedness in marriage. Love of being in control stifles this blessedness, and with it, absolutely everything heavenly and spiritual about the love, to the point that even all knowledge of its existence is lost. One could even say that it is held so cheaply that the mere mention of marriage blessedness makes people laugh or flare up in anger. Okay, so I do like that Swedenborg will say marriage between people comes down from the marriage of love and wisdom and God. So you can learn something about the way God treats us. If you're trying to look at how do you need to treat your partner. God is very much not forcing us to do anything. So do you have to believe that there even is a God? I mean, no. You go through periods in your life. There's plenty of people out there. What are the consequences for it's a free country. It's a free world. You can do that. Do you have to live the way God wants you to live? No. You can go do you wouldn't. There's a very soft hand with which God guides the world, and the only way that we can actually have a real relationship with God is if we want to, in freedom, do that because we love it, not because we're under threat. This is why Swedenborg talks about God not really getting much out of churches that force you to do things, because sure, there's something in that to keeping civil order, but what it doesn't do is actually form heaven inside a person. That has to be done in freedom. So it's the same thing. You have to, with your partner, you've got to think like, okay, well, what do they want? Again, the first session here, they were talking about parenting styles, and when those clash, and somebody thinks, well, we got to do this, and the other person thinks, well, we got to do that, you got to care what the other person thinks. That's crazy, but you got to do it, because that's otherwise it's toxic. It's toxic to the thing. Okay, this is a short one. Let's see what it is like. Can you believe this? This is like Shakespeare when I wrote this title here. What it's like to be in it. I don't know. It's true. It's inspiration from heaven, and I think of this title. It's amazing. It's from Heaven and Hell 369. We may gather from this what the union of minds is like that makes a marriage and that gives birth to marriage love in the heavens. It is that each wants his or her blessings to belong to the other, and that this is mutual. You might say, you kind of already said that so far, but I feel like, in my defense, this is different. That's a different wrinkle. So what's a blessing that you can have? Like, what's something good about you? Anybody? What's an example of like something you have? Good. Like, are you smart? Good health? Yep. Patient? Okay. Yeah, drop and play grandpa. There's all kinds of good characteristics that you can have, and I don't know, when you're young, you sort of hoard those. You look at like, how did I do at school compared to everyone? How many friends do I have compared to everyone? How can I finally get my hair to do something I like? Great. Okay, now I'm cool. I mean, not me, but like this is what people with good hair would say. And you kind of hoard that because you have these blessings from God. I don't even need to go into just the body that you're in, and that it responds to your will in the way that it does. It's crazy. And I didn't think it up. I wasn't part of the planning process. I don't know how it works. It just goes. All this stuff I have. These are these blessings that are in my hand. Marriage is like, prior to it, in general, you're sort of thinking, so how do I have these things? What can I get out of these things? And marriage is like, how do I get it so that you have these things that are mine? How do I confer my blessings to you? I'm not even totally sure what that would look like, but so let's say that you're like good at being social and your partner is not as good. You could help them in social situations. You could like help with a friend's stuff. Let's say that one of you is organized and the other is not organized but is trying to be organized. You can help them have an organized life. I don't know exactly, but like think about it. How do I get my blessings and anything good that happens in my life to benefit this person as well? Does anybody have any, does that make sense what I'm talking about? Does anybody have any, have you ever done that in your life? Or yeah. Yep. Yeah, I love that, and I'll just repeat it back a little bit since I have the power of the microphone here. What I heard was like, okay, so you're packing different packing styles, and there's one school of thought that is like, we need to have everything organized and get it right, because otherwise we won't have stuff. And another school of thought is like, well, you can go to CVS when you get there and buy it, and it's not that. And it's two different skill sets. Like one is a skill set of being organized and thinking ahead, and the other skill set is being relaxed and being able to deal with spontaneous things. But it's not like either of those won out. It's like you've both kind of brought because of your organization, now he remembers things more, and because he's relaxed about that, you have less stress about it. So yeah, you want your blessings to belong to the other one, and in the end, you come together to form the ultimate traveling machine. Was there another one up here? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Then I'll get you.
I love to cook, and I know a lot about cooking from a traditional way of doing things. And my husband, he learned to cook, but sometimes things weren't working out, and flavor profiles didn't work out, or things weren't ready at the same time. And I have offered ways to bring it all together for him. And today is awesome. He brings it all together and he makes a meal that we both enjoy.
Okay, that's like you've transferred a blessing of yours to him, and that you have this knowledge of how to cook. He's learning. Maybe he needs a little help, and you actually like, I'm going to give you what you need so you can have this same joy that I had, or skill or blessing of cooking. That's great. Yes, and then.
So every single morning, almost every single morning, I get up first and I'm down there freezing and I could be doing things. He comes down and starts the fire, and then he goes and makes me coffee, heating up my mug first, and he brings it in to me, and he waits until it's empty and refills it for me. And those are just little external things, but boy, do I appreciate that care.
Yeah.
And then as far as me giving him blessings, well, I'm going to do the cop out and say that the Lord created the woman out of the man's rib while he slept. And so the Lord's doing things, I'm sure, I hope.
Yeah. And we're gonna talk about ribs in a second here, actually. So that's good. I just think that's it's fascinating that the way that Swedenborg describes heaven in the writings. So think right now about how you imagine getting happy, and it's usually like, oh, if there's a scarcity of something, I'm the one who gets it, and then I'm happy. I'm trying to remember the last tangible time I did this. Okay, so there's a video game that's called Mario Kart. Does anyone know of that? I'm on a great stretch of playing that with my daughter, and she loves it, and I love it. So that doesn't feel fair because it's so easy and fun. In Mario Kart, there's 12 racers, and only one can be first. And what I want is to be first. And I can. It's so great. It's such a great peering into my state of regeneration because, man, when somebody hits me with a shell in that game, and do you guys know what I'm talking about? Hits me with a shell, okay, and I spin out and I lose my coins and I go from 3rd place to 8th place, and I think to myself, like, what a jerk that person is, and how God is not standing up for me at all in this, and I want to crush them and win. And whenever I see someone ahead of me and I have a red shell, I'm like, they had it coming. And then I zoom past them and I think this is fair and good. So it's a great window into that the ego is just this monster. The love of self is just this monster that's there. But I want that first place. There's only one of that, and I want to be it because when you win first place, if you're playing online against people, when everyone comes back into the waiting room, you are wearing a crown. And there's not even a silver crown for 2nd place. There's just the 1st place crown. So when that happens, it's so good. So that's happiness. I mean, that's how we think of happiness generally. But the way that Swedenborg says directly that angels in heaven, if they have something good, like, so let's say being really good at Mario Kart is something good that you have, right? I don't have it, but this is what I want. angels do not really even feel joy in the good things that they have unless it's somebody else's as well. Did you know that? It says it in the writings. It's true, sorry. That they could be the greatest at something, and it doesn't do anything for them until they can give it to someone. That's what happiness is once you really get to be smart and wise. So it is with marriage. It's like, what's the point? It is so that anything that comes into me, I can give to someone, and then I can start to feel good about it. And you get little flashes of that. I mean, when you have a kid and you can, oh man, I don't need to go too far into this, but when I helped Sydney get her white tag at the swim club, I felt like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Well, the second greatest thing. The first greatest thing was earlier, like this year, when we took her to her first big concert, and one of the songs that she loved came on, and it was late. We had to stay up late. There was what we thought was an opening act. It was actually like a 2-hour show. It was like the first day of school. But then when her favorite song came on, and she was just like singing and swaying and having this moment, it was like 9:45, and she was still up. And I thought to myself, like, my life has value and purpose. Like normally I'm self-focused and everything, but at times you get this sense of like, oh, that's awesome. That feels really great. That's what it's like. That's where we're heading. That's our North Star. This is, even my computer is falling asleep doing this many Swedenborg quotes in a row. It's like, he's got to be done by now. So it is, and that's kind of cool. I think this is our last one. No, yes, it's our last one, which is really 2, and it's called the reunion. This preamble is necessary to make it known that the souls and minds of people are not in space like their bodies, because, as just stated, they are in origin celestial and spiritual. How'd you like that sentence? Since they are not in space, they can be linked, as it were, into one, although bodies cannot be so linked. So it's just saying your spirit is your mind, so it's outside time and space. You can be thinking of someone, you can be right close to them, even if you're far apart physically, okay? I mean, you can illustrate this easily by if somebody says, like, how close are you to your father? Oh, let's see, how far is it to Chicago? I'm about 800 miles away from my father. That's not what you say. How close are you to your father means, like, do you have a good relationship? Do you love each other, right? That's what we're talking. So people know that this is how it is. We use the language of distance to describe closeness of state, which is a correspondence coming through. This happens primarily between married couples who love each other intimately. So your spirits can get close. But because woman came from man, and their linking is a kind of reunion, reason allows us to see that it is not a linking into one, but an attachment, which is nearer and closer in proportion to their love, and approaches contact in the case of those who enjoy truly conjugal love. Oh, I feel like I got rushed along by that giant sentence farther than I wanted to go, because what I wanted to stop on is woman came from man, so he's talking about the rib in Genesis, or the literal sense of that, which he doesn't always talk about, but there you go. What I love, the reason that I wanted to do this is this. The linking of male and female is a kind of reunion. It feels like that. I feel like you get this sense, like you're growing up and you're like, start to notice, wow, I like girls. Wow. And then it goes along and you're trying to find it. Everyone's trying to find love. And the idea that, like, we're coming back. We're getting reunited, or something that was apart wants to get reunited. I don't know. I feel like that's great. Something about that feels, everything's back how it should be. Reason allows us to see. So what is this reunion like? This attachment can be called spiritual cohabitation, which is possible in the case of married couples who love each other tenderly, however far apart their bodies are. Experience in the natural world, too, offers plenty of evidence to prove this. So, from this it is plain that conjugal love links two souls and minds into one. I once did a song. We did a video that was a song. I don't know if it was a good song or not, but it was like I played the guitar and sang, and the chorus is about everything's about getting things back together, because it seems like that's what God is like union, and the opposite of that is tearing apart. So, there's sort of the reunion of people with God because you like fell away from your parent, or you're trying to get that back together. Heaven is like the human race is all scattered. We're all doing this crazy stuff to each other, trying to get back together in love. I just like the idea that that's what, you get way down the road with your spouse, and it's like, oh, we're back together. We've been reunited. I can hear the like movie soundtrack with that statement. Very last one. Oh, no. Oh, these are the, oh, my goodness. 20 minutes. Nobody left. So we'll just go quickly on this. The most perfect and noblest human form is when two forms are made by marriage into one. So when the flesh of two becomes one as they were created to be, the man's mind is then lifted into a higher light and the wife's mind into a higher heat, and then they germinate, flower, and bear fruit like trees in the spring. I don't know. I'm getting sick of the winter, so I just felt like, yeah, spring. That's where I want to be. Okay, so here, dare I say, these are semi-practical. You can like actually act on that. So conjugal love is this thing that's like from God, and getting married can form the like receptacle for it, but doesn't automatically do it. You can even have the receptacle for it not married. This is something that primarily happens inside you. So what is it that what matrix can accept that? What is the soil in which it can be planted? Here you're going to get this. There's only two things that you have to do, okay? Hype man for this. However, married partners become an image of the marriage between good and truth only as the inner faculties of their minds are open, because the mind only gradually opens from infancy to late old age. For people are born carnal, no offense, they become rational as the mind just above the body opens, and as this rationality is purified and decanted, so to speak, from its dregs, from fallacious appearances that flow in from the physical senses, and from urges that flow in from temptations of the flesh. Just saying, okay, you got a bunch of mess to clean up initially. Rationality thus opens, and this is accomplished only through wisdom. Okay, the only way you can, so there's all that. We're not quite in the right state. The only way to get there is through wisdom. Okay, so great, wisdom. But what do we mean by wisdom? Of what character is this wisdom? How do I know if I'm wise? Then, when the inner faculties of the rational mind have been opened, the person becomes an image of wisdom, and this wisdom is the receptacle of truly conjugal love. The wisdom which forms this image and receives this love is rational and at the same time moral wisdom. Okay, there you go. All you got to do is have rational wisdom and moral wisdom. Let's go home. Rational and moral. That's it. Okay, what does that mean? Rational wisdom views the truths and good virtues that inwardly appear in a person not as qualities belonging to him, but as qualities flowing in from the Lord. So all rational wisdom is to good things come from God. To give credit where credit is due, to acknowledge the supply chain. That when it's like, you know how when you get food and you can say the blessing, which is like, man, I couldn't say it right now, but Sydney, y'all at the elementary school taught her a great little blessing, which is like, blessings on the blossoms, blessings on the fruits, blessings on the leaves and stems, blessings on the shoots. Lord, we thank you for this food. I was like, she just came home and said that one day, and I was like, oh, I love that. What do you mean thank the Lord for the food? He didn't go to the grocery store, or he didn't order it on a phone and have the shopper come and bring it. Why are you thanking the Lord for that? If something goes well, I did that. So you're free to live that way, and we do 99% of the time. However, that ain't rational wisdom. Rational wisdom is understanding that God exists. This is actually what let there be light is to understand goodness and truth are something transcendent, and outside yourself. So if you can get to the point where when you feel love or when you understand what's going on, you just say like that's from the Lord. That is the matrix from which conjugal love can be received. So that's one thing. Try to get it so that you believe that good stuff comes from God. Moral wisdom shuns evils and falsities as contagious diseases, especially lascivious ones which contaminate his conjugal love. Neither of those wisdoms has anything to do with advanced degrees. It doesn't have to do with SAT scores. It's just like, do you believe rational wisdom is like the humility to understand that stuff comes from God. And moral wisdom is that food is expired, so I won't eat it. I mean, this urge to do whatever is bad, so I won't do it. That's it. Those are the two things. If you try to build up that, that's your receptacle for conjugal love. That's what it is. I don't know, man. When I came across that, I felt to myself like, there it is. There's an easy 2-step thing that you can check yourself up. There's the rubric. I don't know. To me, it was a big deal. So the last one. How to join together. So you got two people. This is how you join together. Conjugal love 2:8. Various similar qualities can be joined together, but not with dissimilar ones. So this is talking about the qualities in each partner. Instances of similarities are many and various. Some of them are further apart, some less so. So you get married to someone and you sort of have a sense of how you are, but it could be you're pretty different or you have some things that are different or similar or whatever, your compatibilities, incompatibilities. Yet even those that are further apart, so the stuff in you that's different than your partner, can in time be joined by various means, especially by a couple's accommodations to one another's wishes. That's just like the way you pack for luggage, right? So that's one way you can do it. Okay, I'll accommodate. You want it this way, and you got it. That's why it's so important for each of you to be trying at the same time, because to be good to the other one. Because otherwise, it's like, well, I can't accommodate to this person; they're not accommodating to me, and then it's good if you both do it at the same time. Accommodation to another's wishes by performance of mutual duties. So it's like, oh, why is there so much to do? Well, there's something cool about it, is that it joins you together. By their courteous treatment of each other, after you. And having to do that just on and on and on, being around someone for so long, that's good. By their refraining from things unchaste, by their joint love of little children and care for their children, but above all, from their conformity in matters connected with the church. For through matters connected with the church, a joining of distant similarities is achieved inwardly and only outwardly through other means. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. For you online, there was a super cute baby who made a cute noise up in the front. Those are some things. Remember, I was saying those are some things you got to do. You got to have this kind of wisdom. You got to be courteous to each other. And you might be saying, "Well, that sounds like a lot of work. Why should we do that?" Because what's the point of the whole thing? To make you happy. That's the point. There's not an ulterior motive. This is not. I know the plans I've made for you, says the Lord, to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. I'm not putting you in this to make your life miserable. I'm not trying to make it more work. This is about your happiness, because God is like looking at everybody, looks at each one of us, and absolutely, if in your greatest moment of like you love your spouse and you're like, I want to do everything good for them and all that, ain't nothing compared to how God is looking at you all the time, even in your worst moments. And so the Lord says, I want to make you so happy. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this capacity for conjugal love in you, because if you just can get that thing installed, I'm going to urge you to do that. I can give you so much more happiness than you could have without it. That's the point. That's the point of it. And you got to remember that, or else none of the rest of it makes sense. So that's my whole talk. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.